Bienvenue à tous. Welcome to Reporters here on France 24. I'm Mark Owen. In this special edition, the latest chapter in our story of how Indigenous people are affected by climate change. Our reporters James André and Achraf Abid have taken us to Australia. The Aboriginal Australians have been able to manage the rising temperatures and the greater chances of bushfires in such an effective way that the authorities have now finally begun to take notice of what they're doing. Methods passed down generation to generation. The Aboriginal people have been in Australia over 50,000 years. And to think that I was told in history class when I was a child that Australia was discovered by the Europeans in the 18th century. Captain Cook was mentioned very prominently. Well, James André is here. James, you and Achraf went all the way to the north of Australia for this report. Tell us why.
So we chose to go to Arnhem Land because, in fact, that is the part of the country that is now owned by the Aboriginal people, and it is where you can see them practicing their traditions in the most, I'd say, traditional way. So fire is a very big part of it. It is the most flammable ecosystem in the world. In order to go there, you need permits. There are no roads. You have to drive on dirt tracks, and there are very, very few inhabitants. And I think the statistic is 0 inhabitants per square kilometre. Of course, it's a little bit more than that, but it's pretty close. So it was interesting to see how they manage this very, very flammable ecosystem with their traditional means.
Indeed, putting a match to that grass, it goes up in flames, just like that. Phenomenal stuff. James, thank you. Let's take a look then at the report. James and Achraf in Australia.
Start off. Been burning for all my life since when I was a little boy. My name is Robert Jr. Redfoot. I'm one of the Jungai for this area. My mom gave me permission to come around and look after this area. We want the area to be healthy and strong. But now I know how to burn now. I got country and respect the area and burn like in right time, not late season. Like once when you burn late season, the fire gets really wild and hot. It'll burn the whole country. Four years back, it was really hot. That's when we had really hot fire. Like, been out firefighting for nearly a month. Look like a home for me right there. Me and my girls, like once when we get here, we see a lot of animals that always hang around here. And we want to keep them really strong and healthy, keep bringing them animals back like where they belong.
This savanna in northern Australia is one of the world's most flammable ecosystems.
Keep away from the fire because it's dangerous.
In Arnhem Land, at the northern tip of Australia, Aboriginal people have been burning the bush for thousands of years. This tradition helps regenerate the soil and avoid huge, uncontrollable and destructive wildfires, a risk now even higher with climate change.
You ready?
Yeah.
Junior picks his daughter up on the way to join his parents at their Mount Cat outpost. In the Redfoot family, fire stories are handed down through generations.
Yeah, they know. Sometimes I make for them the wrong stick and they burn it.
Bush torch.
Bush torch. Yeah, they like it burning.
Especially my little girl, she loves burning and hamburging fire all day when we go out camping, making fire.
Nori is the TO, the traditional owner of the Mount Cat area.
This land, we sort of like it's connect to our body. We know that the land is our land, and we gotta be on our country, on our land.
Aboriginal people burn land to attract bush food like kangaroos and buffalo with young shrubs that grow in the ashes.
We know our fire is very important, so as a TO, the rangers come down, they ask me and old man as a Jungai caretaker, they ask us to do burning. We give permission to them and they look after our country by burning.
Junior is a ranger. He works for Mimal, an Aboriginal corporation that manages 18,500 square kilometers of land, an area equivalent to 2/3 of Belgium.
You guys doing all your stuff already? I'll sort you out. Did you grab some lunch already?
Yeah,
Oh, sweet. Corned beef. Oh, red meat.
That prompted the...
Mimal Ranger Base is bubbling with activity. The elected traditional owners are assembled for a board meeting. Dominic Nichols is the CEO, appointed by the Aboriginal administrators to run the corporation. It employs 90 men and women and is mainly financed with carbon credits.
So through our fire management activities, we reduce the amount of late season wildfires and we generate a carbon abatement in the form of around sort of 250 to 300,000 tonnes of carbon equivalents in our projects. And then that in turn is generated into income and equates to around about 60% of our organisational revenue.
Mimal uses this money to blend cutting-edge technology with ancient Aboriginal knowledge. Fires are now monitored with satellites and mapped out on giant screens.
So from there, come around here.
Yeah, you might have to jump from there right over to here.
Yeah, the red one there is last year and the yellow one 2 years ago. So we're just trying to have a look where the area would be good to burn.
When him go around just for playing, go up that rocky area and that grass.
Vanessa and Nikki are planning an aerial burn. Rangers use helicopters to reach the most remote areas of the Mimal Indigenous protected area. The heatwave that brought about 2019's Black Summer is on everyone's mind.
Trees was dead, grass was dead, water was drying up, fish was dying. It was really hot. We had like late fires, just popped up anywhere and everywhere.
The intense heat started here before it caused megafires in the rest of Australia. 186 million hectares of forest were destroyed in the blaze. 34 people and an estimated 3 billion animals perished. A brutal reminder of the grim consequences of climate change.
In the 80s, it was nice and cold, green, normal grasses. We had animals, we had our fruit, where I used to walk around and just pick up fruit from the land and take it back home and feed my other brothers and sisters. And now you can't see anything.
In the past, Aboriginal people lived scattered across these vast expanses, burning the bush as they walked. Over the past century, they regrouped in villages and cities, deserting the savannah. Nicky is about to burn his clan's land.
Is this your country here?
It's my nana's and family related to, not just mine. But yeah, I'm Jungai, like a police for the family. So my job is to make sure everything's alright with this country.
Nicky, is that successful burning?
Spot on. Saves us from walking and driving out here.
Aboriginal rangers have an intimate knowledge of their country that makes the firework more efficient.
They basically just point me in the right direction. We can deviate from the path if we need to. If they see more grass to the left, to the right, I can go over those areas. And they also tell me where not to fly as well, if there's any sites in particular they don't want me to fly.
The bush is peppered with sacred Aboriginal sites. Most locations are well-kept secrets. Some house ancient rock art. Alfred is a Mimal board member and the traditional owner of this country. These murals were painted by his ancestors.
That's my grandfather, my auntie's father, handmade on that. All I remember was this was the camping ground, place to stay really during the wet.
The rocks are covered in paintings, some gradually disappearing.
You can't see them, they're all fading away up there. Some of them back here.
Alfred worries about the paintings, but is really afraid to see Aboriginal knowledge and culture disappear.
All the young fellas today, they're not focusing on the land and on country really. They're too much on that mobile phone. They're on TikTok. They're on just about on everything. That's put them out, and they're not thinking much. You know, I keep thinking to myself, well, how the young people going to learn? You know, it's a crocodile.
This land was only handed back to Aboriginal people when the Land Rights Act was voted in 1976. When Alfred was small, white cattle ranges ruled here.
Those days, no one would know to burn anyway. You know, they had manager there. The manager would say, hey, stop burning up there, you know. We got cattle in there, and don't let the country burn. That's what happened.
Today, two of Arnhem Land's most prominent families are meeting. The Redfoots have travelled from Mount Cat to visit the Campions.
Some of our family.
Otto Campion is an Aboriginal fire expert whose knowledge is recognised across Australia and beyond.
South Australia, we had big fire, and now they're thinking scientists, bushfire people, emergency people, they're talking with Indigenous people how to work together and store this knowledge back and have like a balance.
Otto has been made Doctor Honoris Causa by the University of Darwin and gives conferences all over the world.
Where you gonna stand up and burn them?
Today he's sharing his knowledge with local children.
You gotta go like this, but sometimes that wind in turn, we burn for many things. We want to bring them back, new regrowth, kangaroo. They like this one. This is cane grass, mayacha. You mean smell him, and he wanna come back here. So watch him, bud. Yo.
As the sun sets, both families gather around a campfire to share the stories of this country.
When he's moving all that flame, him blame tongue. Some tree been flowering, like mainly Karaika and Bunguru Ulipa. Temperature him going up, him coming. And right now, him not global warming, him global warning for everyone today. Because we're worrying now bush mob.
Long overlooked, Aboriginal culture is now at the heart of Australia's efforts to prevent megafires. Ancient knowledge that could prove crucial to mitigate the catastrophic consequences of ever-rising temperatures.
Our reporter James André is still here. Fascinating stuff, this series. I'm really enjoying what you're doing, and this one in particular, absolutely intriguing. This method they use of setting fire to things in this way, one might think it's a really risky business, but clearly it works for them. Somehow, the Aboriginal Australians have a culture that many people kind of didn't realise just how complex and effective it is.
Absolutely. In fact, the thing is, there's what's on the face of it. Basically, you think, right, yeah, okay, they look at what type of grass it is, what way the wind is blowing, and they just light it up. And of course, it's very surprising to see them walk away from the fire. And when you see a 10-year-old walking around with matches, it is rather surprising. But it's true that everything is based on something much deeper, which is really a culture, what they call the singing, what they call the fire dreams. And that is the part that, you know, Westerners or scientific people have a much tougher job understanding. But the fact of the matter is, it does work. This part of Australia burnt a lot less back when there were the Great Fires of 2019-2020 than some of the rest of the country. So they are managing to do something which is very difficult to understand, but actually works.
Absolutely remarkable stuff. And you had the privilege of speaking to one of the Aboriginal chiefs face to face. A remarkable experience that must have been. What was their take on what's happening today with our climate, with our planet? What was their take?
Now, what's interesting to understand is that they see it on a much longer scale. So, for example, when I asked Otto, that we see in these pictures, what he thinks about, you know, global warming, global climate change, he says, well, of course there is. I mean, there's always been. Look, behind me in that hill, you can see sea fossils. So that does prove that there was the sea here. And he said, yeah, of course. But if we're talking about like the last century or so, well, it says, yes, of course, you know, it's up and down. But they see it as something that evolves in time. They really live inside nature. They're used to adapting. And they will tell you that in their tradition, well, they have, you know, stories about islands that are now islands that were connected to the land before, because of course they see that on a scale of 60,000 years, which of course is a very different way of looking at it, but they have great resilience when it comes to climate change.
Indeed, a fantastic, cultured people with their own approach, and you know, maybe other cultures can learn from that. James, you've exposed something fantastic here. This series is great, really enjoying it. James André, who along with Achraf Abid was down in Australia meeting the Aboriginal Australians. You can see this again, of course, via our website, France24.com. This is Reporters. Do stay with us.